Okay, this past weekend, November 5th through the 7th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course, we saw the playoffs for North American Challenger League, and there were big stakes on the line as the winner of this bracket would get the chance to play against XSET in a relegation match for a spot in the North American League 2022 season. Now, somebody in my comment section on a previous video, they said, and I can't guarantee the accuracy of this information, but shout outs to that guy if this is factual information. He said that he was playing in a game with a couple of the members of XSET, and they said that the relegation match was supposed to take place on December 12th. So we'll see if that actually happens. But it seems like a pretty believable day. It's a Sunday, so I mean, that makes sense. And it's pretty evenly spaced out from the rest of the competition. So a little ways away from the major, a little ways away from SI, and I guess maybe the US finals or the NAL finals, I guess, if they have those. Spaced away from all that. And also, it doesn't really interfere too much with people's holidays, whatever holidays they celebrate. So, okay, let's talk about the bracket. Of course, I've covered this stuff before the playoffs actually went down. So, I mean, you can just look at how the teams were determined up here. They put in the two groups, and the top three teams from each group got put into the bracket. So the top team got effectively a bye, and the other two teams were cross-seeded against each other. They played. Okay, so let's take a look. We had Investigation File versus Parabellum, and that was a bit of a shocker. I mean, I think a lot of people pegged Parabellum to go just all the way and just win it straight up. And I mean, no spoilers really, because you can just see here. Parabellum do end up winning it, but it's a little bit surprising that they did, considering they got knocked out in the first round, or knocked to the lower bracket, I guess. And well, good for them that there was a lower bracket, because in the past for CL, there was a lower bracket, but there was no grand final. It was just that if you got knocked in a lower bracket, you could still get second place, not first place, which is a very curious way to do things. And obviously this system is much better. But it was a bit controversial, the fact that the grand final, there is no map advantage. There's no like tangible advantage for the team coming from the upper bracket. I think they got like, they automatically won the coin flip for map bans or something, but it was a best 2 out of 3 with no map advantage. Of course, it'd be goofy to have a map advantage at best 2 out of 3. They could have had a map advantage and made it a 3 out of 5. But I suppose you do get somewhat of an advantage because these last 3 games, they were played all in the same day. So Parabellum had to win 2 series. They had to play 2 best of 3s in the same day. And if they'd come from the upper bracket, they would have even had to play 3. See, if they played upper bracket and lost and then got knocked into lower bracket, they could have won, gone to grand final, so they could have played 3 best of 3s. But that's not how it ended up, because Aerial Eyes won. But so actually Aerial Eyes got to play, or had to play rather, the same number of matches. So they did not have a tangible advantage in that way. I didn't realize that going into this. So yeah, and even, I mean, it's up to you to decide, like, is it better to just play them back to back because your hands are hot or whatever? In other games, a lot of times you do get that advantage where you're just like warmed up. But in a game of Siege where it's more of a marathon than a sprint, perhaps this is a disadvantage. It's up to you to interpret, but no real, actual, true, tangible advantage for Aerial or Eyes going into the grand final from the upper bracket side. And let's go back over here. I got a little bit sidetracked. Aerial or Eyes took it against Nocturnes 2-1 in their upper quarterfinals. And a little bit curious the way they do this. If you lost your upper quarterfinal or your upper semifinal, you just got knocked to the lower quarterfinal. So if you won here and then lost here, it's like this didn't even matter. I mean, I guess it changed like the seeding for this, but it's such a minute thing that, yeah, it really sucks. If you might as well have just lost this one and not had to play this one at all. Probably would be better. But again, this is divided over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the games were kind of spread out. There's like 10 games, 10 matches to play, and divided over the course of 3 days, right? So, and then, okay, so maybe I'll address the fact that I think the favorites for everybody going into this were Parabellum, One Shot, and Wichita Wolves. The Wolves have just generally been a pretty good team, and they now have an org backing them up. One Shot just looked indomitable this season. Well, not indomitable, but they were by far the best in their group. And I mean, basically, yeah, they didn't lose, right? They got taken to overtime twice, but they were really, really good. And then Parabellum has just been solid. They won last season of Challenger League, and they were at the Six Invitational a little while ago, and they did well for themselves there. So those were sort of the 3 going into it. So I think this one was a little bit of a shock. This one probably was as predicted. And then the one-shot game, I think people expected this result. Maybe people thought this was going to be one-shot versus Parabellum, but I think at the point that it was one-shot and IF that people weren't too surprised about the one-shot victory. And then this one probably was surprising. I don't think a lot of people had Aerial pegged as making it to the upper bracket final. I mean, they won this, they won this, they won this. They made it all the way. They dropped one single map to make it to the Grands. And so we'll look at the lower quarterfinals here. Parabellum 2-0 Wichita Wolves. So Wichita Wolves got decimated, unfortunately. They lost 2-0, and then they lost 2-0, and then they were out. And that's it. And then, okay, so Nocturne's over here. Play Investigation Files and Investigation File 1. I don't know what the general sentiment is regarding who was like the worst team. I addressed who like maybe the 3 favorites or best teams were, but I don't know what the order really would be for Aerial, Nocturnes, and Investigation File before we saw these games play was. But anyways, I think maybe Nocturnes was the least favored, but I'm not sure on that. And then maybe, yeah, okay, I don't know, hard to say. Okay, so Parabellum versus Investigation File. Yeah, I think people, even though Parabellum lost over here, we're still expecting Parabellum to make a run. But then, yeah, so they had to rematch, right? Rematch against Investigation Files. They lost, but you know they take it 2-0. So good on them. They adapted. They bounced back. Investigation File lacked the stamina, whatever it was. Parabellum took it, and this one was in dominant fashion. I think this one was pretty close. I think does it like show that? Yeah, ooh, nice. So 7-3 for Investigation File. So you know not terribly close, but then it went double overtime. So this really could have gone either way potentially. Anyways, Parabellum win. And then at this point, they move into the lower bracket finals. So we only have 3 teams left, right? So the top 3 were One Shot, Aerial, and Parabellum. And you'll notice One Shot, Aerial, Parabellum. They all 3 came from the same group. So I think a lot of people were talking about how the groups were unbalanced going into the stage. And now I suppose they've been proven correct because, yeah, the top 3 placing teams all came from the same group. And this was a really tight group. Even Aqualix just missed out on playoffs by a matter of a tiebreaker. They were on 8 points just as Parabellum and Aerial were. And okay, so we go into the upper bracket final, One Shot versus Aerial, and it's a 2-0. I think that was a big shocker. I think at this point people, again, are also thinking One Shot to the grand final, but it was Aerial 2-0. And how close were these actually? It was 7, oh, not even closer, 7-2, 7-4. Some of these matches I watched, some of them I wasn't able to watch. I was busy working on a video, as you may or may not know. Check out that Skies video. Right. And then One Shot versus Parabellum, not too good either. So One Shot, and they made it to the upper bracket final. They might have been feeling good. Just they got their bye past the quarterfinals, and then they won their upper bracket finals. And this one was like a little bit back and forth. Didn't go overtime in any of the games, but they won fairly decisively. And yeah, feeling good. Like they lost 1 map here, and then they didn't lose any maps in the regular season. But then 2-0, 2-0, and you're done. That's a tough one. And then we went to finally the grand finals. And the first map, Oregon, went to Parabellum. I think that was expected. This is possibly their best map, but it's one of their very good maps. Then they went to Clubhouse, and well, it could have ended right here in the 15th round. But Aerial managed to take it, and then we go to one more map. And I think people were talking a lot about people not, Aerial not having the stamina. And there was like one round where, who was it? Was it Gomez? I think it was Gomez or Diaz. I think it was Gomez. Did something like really goofy, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, he doesn't care anymore." This, that, and you know, it's just tough. Like I don't know, your mental might be chalked. Maybe your mental is especially chalked knowing that you just went into this grand final with no advantage, despite the fact that you had to make this crazy run against everyone's expectations, and then you just, yeah. If this had been a 3 out of 5. Who's to say what it really would have happened? If there was a map advantage for some reason in a best 2 out of 3, I guess Aerial would have just won because Parabellum would have taken the second map, and then Aerial would have taken Parabellum would have taken the first map, and then Aerial would have taken the second map and had the 1 map already. So then they would have just won 2-1, and that would have been quite a curious affair. Okay, regardless of how it went down, Parabellums are the winner of North American Challenger League 2021. And probably rightfully so. They seem like the best team overall through this stage because they won the playoffs, although, they sort of just scraped their way into the playoffs. But they won the previous season of Challenger League, and I think the general sentiment is that they are probably the best team in Challenger League and possibly the only team in Challenger League that deserves to be in Pro League or could even compete in Pro League. Maybe some people, I did see some discussion earlier where somebody said 5 of these 6, they didn't say which ones, but they thought 5 of these 6 teams could compete. And then somebody was like, no, it's definitely 2. And then somebody was like, oh no, it's only Parabellum. So I don't know. Yeah, it's up to interpretation. And we'll have to see how they fare against XSET. And then if they beat XSET, how they fare against the rest of the North American League. But I think, as I was saying earlier, we could also potentially see one of these other teams in NAL come 2022 if Ubisoft really wants to fill that final position. And I mean, this is probably the best way to do it, unless they do some sort of thing like that Disrupt did, where they just they put together a team right before the US division. I think that's what happened. Maybe they had a few other players in the org already. I don't remember 100%, but they cobbled together like Nyx and Retro and Shuttle and who was it? Was it NJR and Nyx, or not Nyx? I said Nyx. Drip, and then they replaced Drip with something. I don't know. However, it went down. Regardless, okay. So I think that pretty well covers this. I guess I went over all of the games to some extent. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you have any comments, let me hear that in the comments. And okay, with all of that being said, good luck to Parabellum. Looking forward to that match, and I will catch you guys in the next video.